Excuse me. Michelle, wouldn't you rather have an Elvis party? Get an idea. Instead of all those goofy little hats, your friends can wear little tiny sideburns.
One of them went to bed in a Florida hotel room after a comedy show and never woke up. And one of them stood at a university podium telling students how to get sober while coming down from a 2-day cocaine bender. But you know what's even crazier? Aunt Becky went to prison.
Are accused of paying $500,000 in bribes to get their daughters admitted to USC as recruits for the crew team, even though neither of them had ever participated in the sport.
I just want them to have that experience and get that education.
Here's what really happened to the people who made Full House. Bob Saget as Danny Tanner. In 1987, Bob Saget was 30 years old and almost didn't take the job. He had a dark, filthy stand-up act, not exactly the portfolio you'd associate with a wholesome widowed father raising 3 daughters on network television, but he took it. And for 8 seasons, he played Danny Tanner with warmth and commitment while privately telling the most profane jokes in Hollywood the moment the cameras stopped rolling. His Full House co-stars have described it consistently. The second the director called cut, Bob Saget became a completely different person. But there's a layer under the comedy that most people missed. His sister Gay had died of scleroderma in 1993 while the show was still running. He'd watched the disease take her apart slowly, and he never stopped trying to do something about it. He joined the board of the Scleroderma Research Foundation and stayed on it for years. He directed a TV movie about her life. In the weeks after his death, that foundation received over $90,000 in donations from more than 1,500 people around the world. That's not a coincidence. That's a legacy. On the 8th of January 2022, Bob Saget performed a stand-up show in Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. He posted about it afterward, said it was one of the best shows of his life, that he'd gone longer than he planned because he didn't want to stop. He checked into his hotel room at 2:17 inches the morning. At 3:42 a.m., he was found unresponsive. The medical examiner determined he had accidentally struck the back of his head, possibly slipping on the marble bathroom floor, thought nothing of it, and gone to sleep. He was 65 years old, no drugs, no alcohol, just a man who had a show the night before and was already planning the next one.
We are coming on the air interrupting America's Funniest Home Videos in the East because we've learned actor and comedian Bob Saget has died. He was, of course, the longtime host of the show, also best known for his role as Danny Tanner on the show Full House.
In 2026, Bob Saget would have been 69 years old. His wife, Kelly Rizzo, still speaks about him publicly. His castmates gathered on video call on the 2nd anniversary of his death, wearing sweatshirts with his name. John Stamos has said the grief doesn't get smaller, you just get used to carrying it. Jodie Sweetin as Stephanie Tanner. Jodie Sweetin was 5 years old when Full House started and 13 when it ended. She grew up in front of 17 million people a week. And when the camera stopped, she had no idea who she was outside of Stephanie Tanner. The drinking started at 14, at Candace Cameron Bure's wedding, her own words. She had 2 bottles of wine and blacked out. She's described it as the first time in her life she felt completely comfortable in her own skin. By the time she hit her 20s, the drinking had become cocaine, then crystal meth, then ecstasy. She was spending an estimated $60,000 on drugs in a single 9-month stretch. And in the middle of all of it, a story leaked that she'd been in rehab, and suddenly she was in demand as a speaker on addiction recovery. She took the work, she told the story. She got on planes and stood at podiums and talked about getting clean. In April 2007, she flew to Marquette University in Wisconsin to speak to a hall full of students about the dangers of drugs, and she'd been awake for 2 days on a cocaine and meth bender before she walked on stage. She cried mid-speech. The students thought it was emotion, it was shame. She published her memoir Unsweetened in 2009 and finally told the full story. She dates her actual sobriety to the 8th of December 2008, though she briefly relapsed after a car accident years later. She worked as a clinical logistics coordinator at a drug rehab center. She completed a degree as a drug and alcohol counselor. She came back to Fuller House in 2016 and made 5 more seasons. In 2026, Jodie Sweetin is 44 years old. She has been sober from alcohol for 16 years.
Remembering her dark times and getting sober.
I was doing cocaine and ecstasy and, alcohol and all of that.
I think that's her biggest accomplishment, is that she's just incredibly real.
She is more than a story about what went wrong. She's also the story of someone who came back from it. Lori Loughlin as Rebecca Donaldson Katsopoulos. Lori Loughlin wasn't supposed to be a regular on Full House. She was brought in for a 6-episode arc as Rebecca Donaldson, the woman who'd eventually become Jesse Katsopoulos' wife and the co-host of Danny Tanner's morning show. The audience responded to her so strongly that the writers kept expanding her role until she was effectively a permanent member of the cast. She played warm, grounded, and unshakable for 8 seasons. Then she came back for Fuller House in 2016 and did it again for 4 more. The call came in March 2019. Federal agents, the college admissions scandal.
There was more fallout today from the biggest college admissions scam ever prosecuted. Actress Lori Loughlin was taken into custody in Los Angeles and just moments ago released on $1 million bond. Loughlin and her husband are among dozens of parents accused of paying bribes and faking athletic resumes to get their kids into college.
She and her husband, Massimo Giannulli, had paid $500,000 to a man named Rick Singer, the mastermind of what prosecutors called a nationwide bribery scheme to get their 2 daughters into the University of Southern California as rowing recruits. Neither daughter had ever rowed competitively. The family had posed the girls on rowing machines for fake athletic profiles. 2 weeks after the charges were filed, Hallmark dropped her. Netflix removed her from Fuller House mid-production. HP pulled her from advertising. She initially pleaded not guilty. It took over a year before she changed that plea to guilty. She served 2 months at the Federal Correctional Institution in Dublin, California, the same facility Felicity Huffman had served time in months earlier. She was fined $150,000 and given 2 years of supervised release. Her husband served 5 months. In 2023, she appeared in Curb Your Enthusiasm as a version of herself who bribed her way into an exclusive golf club and cheated at every hole. She played it completely straight. It was the best piece of self-aware comedy she'd ever done. In 2026, Lori Loughlin is 61 years old. She has returned to television and continues working. The supervised release expired in December 2022. Whether the career fully recovered is a question that depends entirely on who you ask. John Stamos as Jesse Katsopoulos. John Stamos had already done General Hospital and a string of television roles before Full House. He was 23 when he took the part of Jesse Katsopoulos, and he brought something to it that the show hadn't fully anticipated: genuine rock star energy in a family sitcom. He played guitar with the Beach Boys during the run of the show, actual live performances, not staged. He stayed with them for years after. Jesse was supposed to be a peripheral character. By season 2, he was the reason a significant portion of the audience tuned in. His personal life, during and after the show, was messier than the public image suggested. His marriage to Rebecca Romaine lasted 6 years and ended in 2005. He was arrested for DUI in 2015.
Beverly Hills police received numerous calls about a possible drunken driver this weekend, finding Hollywood heartthrob John Stamos, aka Uncle Jesse, driving under the influence. However, it's still unclear if Stamos was driving Mustang Sally.
He went to rehab. He talked about it openly afterward. In 2017, he married actress Caitlin McHugh, and in 2018, at 54 years old, he became a father for the first time. His son, Billy, was born in April 2018. In interviews since, he's described it as the thing that finally made sense of everything else. He has spoken about Bob Saget's death more than any other member of the cast. He told interviewers the grief never goes away, it's just there, and you get used to it. He said he didn't want to get used to it. In 2026, John Stamos is 62 years old. He acts, he produces, he still looks like he's 40 on a good day. He is the member of this cast most visibly carrying the weight of who is gone. Candace Cameron Bure as DJ Tanner. Candace Cameron was 11 when Full House started and 19 when it ended. She was also Kirk Cameron's little sister, which meant she grew up in a family already deep inside evangelical Christianity. That faith became the defining feature of her public life after the show. She's written 5 books about it. She became one of the most prominent faces of the Hallmark Channel's Christmas movie machine, eventually starring in dozens of films. In 2022, she left Hallmark for Great American Family, a smaller, more explicitly Christian network, because, she said, she wanted to make content that reflected her values more directly. The decision made headlines. It cost her the larger platform. She said consistently that she doesn't regret it. She has spoken openly about a period of bulimia during the show's run, about the pressure of growing up on screen, about navigating faith and public life simultaneously. Her marriage to former NHL player Broderick Street has lasted since 1996. In 2026, Candace Cameron Bure is 49 years old. She is probably the most commercially active member of this cast, still producing, still starring, still building a media presence on her own terms. Dave Coulier as Joey Gladstone. Dave Coulier was the comedian's comedian on the set, the one doing impressions between takes, keeping the mood light, carrying the physical comedy that the show required. Joey Gladstone was essentially a version of him. He'd known Bob Saget for years before Full House. They toured stand-up circuits together. They were genuinely close. He has described the days after Saget's death as some of the hardest of his life. The thing most people know about Dave Coulier that has nothing to do with Full House: he dated Alanis Morissette in the early 1990s. Shortly after the show began, they broke up. She went away and wrote "You Ought to Know." He has confirmed, over many years and in many interviews, that the song is almost certainly about him. He's handled it with more grace than most men would. "I'm going to take the high road," he said. "I can understand the frustration." In 2026, Dave Coulier is 66 years old. He still tours, he still does the voices, he still misses his friend. Full House ran for 192 episodes and ended in 1995. It came back as Fuller House in 2016 and ran for 5 more seasons and 75 more episodes. 17 million people watched it at its peak. The house on Broderick Street in San Francisco is still there. Tourists still stop in front of it every day. Bob Saget is gone. The others are still here, carrying what the show gave them and what it cost them in roughly equal measure. One of them went to prison. One of them got sober. One of them became a father at 54. One of them is still on stage doing the voices. And one of them stood at a university podium and cried while lying to a room full of students and eventually told the truth anyway. None of that was in the script. But then, the best things never are. Full House, 1,987 to forever.